Alright, hello and welcome to Plugging Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugging Along, we created a basic user interface for the Freedom Trait Triggered Melodic Interlude effect. However, the main UI is starting to get kind of cluttered, and today we'll fix that by adding an option to control the war speech timers that we added a few weeks ago, and we'll move the Melodic Interlude timer into a new window that will just pop up when it's time for that. As always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. And in the meantime, let's get a few windows set up here. All right, first of all, excellent. Okay, so I'm here in the 21st hall, but it's so pedestrian to be down here on the walkway. I'm going to go ahead and move myself up to where I can look down on everyone. If you don't know, in the 21st hall, there's a ramp over here leading to the Chamber of Leadership. Yep. But if you jump this gap right here and are successful, you can go ahead and continue along the walkway. Fantastic. Okay. So, first thing, we were making lots of fun changes last time, but we didn't do any commits or snapshots with source control. And that's always a good idea, is to kind of save your progress periodically as you go. So, just as a refresher, last time we were focusing on the Freedom trait. This is a trait that you can get as a minstrel in the Warrior Skald trait tree. And this is one of the, what do you even call these? The trait bonuses that you get as you put more points into a tree. In this case, the Freedom trait gives you a 10% chance for an unknown number of calls and cries to give you the ability to heal others, which normally you can't do in Redline. The thing that it triggers or procs is the Melodic Interlude effect, which says your healing is temporarily unlocked for a single use on a friendly target. And that's an important distinction. A friendly target includes you. If Melodic Interlude is active and you heal yourself, Melodic Interlude is done now. So that's something to be aware of. You count as a friendly target. Okay, and also, Freedom specifies that you can only use Raise the Spirit and Chord of Salvation, but that means you can't use Bolster Courage, which is kind of your bigger heal. It's not an instant the way Chord of Salvation is, but it's definitely heals for a lot more than Raise the Spirit. As we can see here, Chord of Salvation still heals more, though. It's still the best bet, but Bolster My Courage is a good second heal if you could heal with anything, but you can't. It just Raise Spirit and Chord of Salvation. That was the wrong key. Okay, so you can do Chord of Salvation an instant, which does, on my character, around 2,000 morale, or Raise Spirit around 800. So obviously, Chord of Salvation would be best if you could do more than once, but with a 12-second cooldown, you're only going to get one of those off. So Chord of Salvation and Raise Spirit are the best options. You can only get one of them, though, because then the Melodic Interlude is over. So, Chord of Salvation, unless it happens to be on cooldown. All right, so those are the effects. Now, I did some testing over the last week, and I noticed the following. In fact, that's not a great way to see it. Let's go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code here instead. I'm going to resize the window a little bit. It's make it a little bit easier to see. And then, where is this? There we go. These were the effects that I recorded. And what I did was I had my plugin, and we saw this at the end of the last stream. It went ahead, and anytime it saw one of the skills that seemed probable, so Call to Fate, or Piercing Cry, or maybe Dissonant Strike, turns out no. Call of Arome, of course, Cry of the Valar, Cry of the Wizards, and Call of the Second Age. I put those in and said, anytime you see this, jot it down, and then when we get the Melodic Interlude, go ahead and spit out the last thing that we jotted down. And what I saw was, yes, Call to Fate, Dissonant Piercing Cry, Call of Arome, Cry of the Valar, Cry of the Wizards, Call of the Second Age, those all did appear at least once as the thing immediately preceding the Melodic Interlude. Cool. That tells us some very nice things. Basically, everything but the melee attack that is not a ballad or an anthem has a chance to do it. I didn't see it with Timeless Echoes of Battle, so I guess maybe, but it's thematically doesn't make sense. So really your main offensive stuff that's not a ballad or an anthem has a chance if it's not Dissonant Strike. Cool, that was neat to learn. I don't think it will be useful in the plugin itself, but it was nice to convert the more ambiguous tooltip that just said your war speech calls and cry of the wizards into something a little bit more definitive of what really can do this. And it seems like pretty much all your range stuff can do it. Okay, what else do we have here? We have all the stuff. So we have some changes that went into the to-do file. I never worry about what went into the to-do file, just it can go ahead and we can snapshot that. But what else did we do? Let's start with our language file. We added Melodic Interlude. Now, we didn't actually get the German and French versions of that. That's okay. We have added the entry into the language file, and that's the good starting point. And that's the effect name that we're looking for. Freedom never comes in as an effect name. It's just the trait that triggers that effect. Okay, so our options window, we added some options to help us test. Because a 10% thing that happens on some of your skills that have a 30-second cooldown, very annoying. So we have the start melodic interlude and stop melodic interlude. In fact, we can see that right now. We can also see the UI for that, a little bit clunky. We're going to get to that. But we have the start and the stop. Awesome. Okay, so we definitely want to keep that. So we're going to go ahead and take the increased height and the things that only show if we're in debug mode. We're going to go ahead and stage those for our commit, our snapshot. Settings, okay, we have, what is this? Were we getting started? We were getting started on a separate window. Sweet. Very good, but we're not ready for that to be part of the snapshot. This is just going to be the pre-window stuff. There's dinner happening in the background. That probably came through. Excellent. So all of this, yes, we're gonna set that aside for a moment. Melodic interlude window itself set aside. Main. Okay. In main, oh, I can see a debug statement. That's the one that was spitting out the information. We won't want to commit that, but we still want the melodic interlude start. So we can just go ahead and select the lines we want. We don't have to go in and edit the file first. Totally fine. And here we can see the melodic interlude stop. We want that whole chunk. Awesome. So, oh, we have is valid melodic interlude effect. Now, here's where we can document the things that we saw. So let's go ahead and take all of these. And what was that? That was main.lua. So we're going to go ahead and pull that open. And here we are. So all of these, and they're not formatted very well. So I'm actually going to pop them into a Sublime text window. Makes it very easy to fix these things. We'll start by just saying, hey, anytime there's 2 new lines in a row, get rid of that. And let's go ahead and get rid of those timestamps by doing a multi-select, and we're good. Oh, no, we want to comment these things. So we'll just put a dash dash at the start of each line and call that good. Okay, so we have these. Now, just as a side effect, these are in the order that they are on my toolbar list. They're not in any reasonable order other than that. And also they've got things like critical hit or perhaps even more. But, you know, this seems like more than we need. I think we can boil this down to melodic interlude has been seen after the following skills. And I think that'll be fine. So we're going to go ahead and pull these out in a new line. So we have Call to Fate, Dissonant Piercing Cry, awesome. Call of Rome, yeah. Cry of the Valar. Cry of the Wizards. I mean, why didn't they just call it Cry of the Maya? I don't understand. And Cry of the Second Age. There we go. Now, whenever a line gets that long, I tend to just want to break it up. I don't know that we need one line for each of these, so just break it up right here, and that way it's a little bit more readable. Awesome. And that boils all of this down. Now, I still have that other file if I want to go back and review it for some reason, but this was a flawed method to begin with because there's no guarantee that there wasn't some other skill between the one we were looking for and the actual trigger Melodic Interlude. I didn't do anything fancy like has it been less than 2 seconds or anything like that. So this is a plausible list of triggers. In fact, we could see, has it plausibly been seen after following skills? But it's fine. Cool. So we'll come back into our source control, and we do want to go ahead and grab that function. Okay, the last combat received, no. Track skills, no, that was all part of that debug. Does chat contain a track skill? Nope, it's all debug. And this. Okay, cool. So we can ignore that. We'll come back and clean it up after we've done this commit. But finally, the buff window itself. Now, it's okay. We know we're going to refactor this into a window, but right now we want to capture what we did have because that was working. And if we mess up, we want to be able to go back to what worked. So we're going to go ahead and commit the thing, even though it's not the final version of what we're going for. And in this case, we had a timer display. There was the deletion of a line of an unrelated thing. So we'll come back to that. And then finally, the interlude start and interlude stop functionality. Awesome. Staging out that in. So, want to ignore that, want to ignore this, not yet, ignore, not yet, and just some helper files that we don't need anymore. Awesome. That's all the things that make what we did last time work. So, what do we call it? Initial functionality for Melodic Interlude UI. Great. Okay, so we go ahead and commit that, that snapshot or that commit. And I in chat says, hello, welcome to Plugging Along, where we are working on the MinstrelBuff plugin. If you're not familiar with plugins in Lord of the Rings Online, you can access the plugin manager through the little caret menu up to System and over to Plugin Manager. And always remember, if you've added or removed plugins while Lord of the Rings is running, do remember to click that little green arrow right here, because Lord of the Rings is not keeping an active eye on your plugins directory. And that can be an easy source of confusion. Now, the MinstrelBuff plugin, great for minstrels. There's this little box here. And what we did last time and what we just finished committing changes for was the Melodic Interlude UI, just the starting version of it. Now we're going to make that better this time, but that's what that code was. So a little recap there. Now this change here, notice we have a call to set size followed by another call to set size right after it. That was a mistake to leave that in there, and we just want to go ahead and remove that. So removed old code that does not do anything. That was a little asterisk in my head. It does potentially have side effects, but it doesn't, so it's fine. We're also going to go ahead and remove this debug code that was trying to determine what skills can trigger a Melodic Interlude. I think I've satisfied myself that pretty much all of your ranged skills, maybe even Time and Cycles of Battle, but since you tend to only use that once or twice in a combat, especially again if you're fighting a single boss, you'll use it once and that's it. So a 10% chance to trigger something is really rare. I guess I could just leave it for right now. Maybe I'll sit against a target dummy and just do this over and over. I don't know. That seems unlikely. Nope, I'll remove it. Okay, so coming on into our source control, we can see this right line here. Just hit the discard button to remove it. And then last comment received, the track skills, does it contain a track skill, and the chat.received. We'll just get rid of all of that. Awesome. All right. So we're left with the beginnings of shifting things to the Melodic Interlude window. Great. Now, did we have branches for war speech? We did, and those have been merged into develop. Excellent. Other thing I was thinking was that it would be nice to go ahead and make it optional for the war speech. Oh, my poor camera. I need to straighten this or tighten that bolt there. It keeps drifting. Ah, well. Okay. So, yeah, I was thinking about adding a thing for war speech, and that would be just pausing what we're currently working on. Let's see what that would look like. Yeah. Yeah, I think we can do that. So, when you're working on one feature and you want to go work on another feature, a lot of modern source control utilities, and I'm using Git, are able to go ahead and stash things and change over to work on something else. It's just like using a bookmark. So we're going to go ahead and stash, and this is the Melodic Interlude stuff. It doesn't have to be a fancy name. And now we're back to where we were with no changes in our working directory. So we can go ahead and say, take us back to where we were before. Actually, I'll unload this before LOTRO has problems. And now we do not have the melodic interlude functionality anymore. If I were to go ahead and load this, we don't see anything in the UI. Oh, there's that issue with the options window. We'll go ahead and fix that real fast right here. All right, so options window, two things. One, we do want to go ahead and put that show debug options to true back on, but not until we've fixed the height here. We can see the height of the control isn't quite enough to show what's currently here. All right, so the height started out as 400. Let's go ahead and set that to 450 instead. We're going to go ahead and reload the plugin, and we can see plenty of room at the bottom. Maybe a little too much room, but it's okay. And that's good. In fact, let's call that good enough for a commit. Fixed height of options window. And we don't want that debug equals true part, just the part where we changed the height. We're going to stage that, commit that, all good. Okay. Let's go ahead and get that debug options to true so we can see everything. Excellent. And let's think about what the war speech option would look like. Now, we can trigger a war speech even standing here in the 21st hall by taking advantage of major ballad. When you are in resident stance, your major ballad becomes a area effect heal, and it also still triggers your war speech effect. That is the plus 5% tactical damage for 8 seconds. And so we can see that happening in the UI here, and so it's going to be very easy to replicate, and that's great for testing a change that says turn it off. So that's going to go into the options window here. Now, since this is an actual option, we're going to want to go ahead and localize the string so it can be easily read in German and French as well. So we can see we're looking at the, that's the wrong button. We're going to go ahead into the, let's see, strings combined. We still have that. I'll add it here, but I'll also add it into the broken out files until I kind of land on which variation I want to use. So we have use soliloquy tracker. We also want to add a use war speech tracker. Yes. And we'll only have the English version here, and that's okay. Use. It's not really a tracker. Soliloquy is a different window. Show war speech timers. Okay, so if that's the what we're calling the option, then we can rename this. Show war speech timers. It's okay if they aren't the same thing, but it's very helpful when you're looking at this show war speech timers to have a sense that that's what's going to be spit out onto the screen. Okay, so we have show war speech timers. Now we can pop this in to the broken out language files. Okay, the broken out language files are simpler because they don't include all the languages, they're just the language that is correct. So show war speech timers is just the English text in English, and if we had the Dutch and the French, it would just be those. But it's always good to have something, so defaulting to the English is a fine strategy for right now. All right, so that's the French, German, English, and that original combined file that we haven't quite deprecated. And we can go ahead and add a new row. Now, the code here is adding checkboxes and just sort of incrementing our Y coordinate, or how far down the page we are. Oh, and I says, I think it's cool. Well, thank you. Hopefully you're still here to hear my response, but either way, yes, I think plugins are also cool. Okay, so we're going to check, show war speech timers. Awesome. So we're going to do something very similar to the previous checkbox. So in cases like this, I'll often go ahead and just copy that previous one, take it into a separate file. In this case, I'm using Sublime Text, and just use some find and replacing. And by doing this in a separate file, I have no chance of accidentally replacing too much. So we're going to come into the Serious Business checkbox, and we're going to go ahead and rename that to show war speech timers checkbox. Great. And let's go ahead and pull that back in to Visual Studio Code. Now we have a different checkbox that's going to show up, but oh, I'm just noticing. Oh, did I not fix the thing? I did not fix the thing. Oh, that's going to be a thing I do right next. Hang on. To do. Fix the thing. Excellent. So we want to change that language string. So easy enough to come back into the strings file. And we called that show war speech timers. Awesome. Set position, no problem. Set size, no problem. Set checked. Okay, this is a not correct. So let's put a pin where we currently are, and let's get into self.settings. Oh, of course. We're gonna come on into settings here instead, and we're going to go ahead and just kind of replicate what we have for serious business. We had a get check for serious business, a set check for serious business. We're going to go ahead and do that same pair of functions. And again, if we want the same thing, at a certain point when you're doing copy pasting, you might think to yourself, is there a better way? But in this case, the way the settings object is set up in MinstrelBuffs, they have a pair of these for each setting. Now, I think it might be better to maybe just have a single function that you can pass a thing in, and it can discriminate based off of that parameter. But right now, that's more of a structural change than we're looking for. So we have get check for serious business. Great. We're going to find all the instances of that, and instead show war speech timers. Awesome. So we have get show war speech timers, set show war speech timers using the settings table of value here, and we have a show war speech timers change. We're going to want that to be show. Oh no, that is correct. Everything's correct. Awesome. What did we pull this from? Serious business. Do we have any serious? We do not. Great. So we're going to go ahead and yank that back in to settings.lua, and now we have our show war speech timers. Excellent. But there's a couple things here that haven't been defined yet. First of all, this entry in the settings table, we're going to want to make sure that there's a default value for that. So, oh, maybe there is none. Oh, there may not be one. That's okay. Serious business would have been up here, but since the default value of nil is going to equate to false, that is a fine default value, which is probably why we didn't do anything about it. And we can do that same strategy for the showing the war speech timers, but they don't need to be on by default. People can opt into that. Okay, the next thing is this callback function, check for serious business changed. We're going to want to find out what where that is so we can imitate that as well. Oh no, of course, someone registers that if they want it to be called. So we don't need that. But we should check where else this is being used. Okay, so we can see in main. Is that a reasonable place for this? I'm going to ponder that while I get a drink of water. The reason I'm pondering is that when I see something in main whose job is to dispatch something off to buff window, I get suspicious that maybe buff window should be the one registering for the event in the first place. How do I feel about that? Well, what are we doing? You can put a pin in that. What are we doing with this variable? What is this guy? This doesn't look right at all. Oh. Yes, it did need to be here because for right now, the processing of the effect display is happening in main, and therefore whether or not we short circuit out of that when we find serious business also has to be in main. So this was the side effect of the effect processing still being in main. Okay, I can see that. In which case, the same logic applies for war speech because it's got to have the same stuff. So we're going to go ahead and serious business. Okay, so we have serious business effect. Okay, check for, yeah, we're going to want to replicate. So self.war speech effect equals, and we probably already have that. Let's come on into here. War speech. No? Did we not localize that yet? That'd be very sad. Oh, of course we did. It is in it's in the minstrel effects. Because of historical nature right now, the strings are split out into two places. But I don't like it. All right, put a pin in that. Self dot show war speech timers equals self dot settings dot colon get. And I've already forgotten what we called it, so get show war speech timers. Okay, thanks, Moobot. Moobot has put a list of cool plugins into chat. And then buff window. I don't know what buff window needs to care about that right now. So show war speech timers. We're going to have an initial setting. Are we? Yeah, that's fine. And then we need a callback to know if that changes. Self settings. And that settings is going to be show war speech timers changed equals, and there's going to be an anonymous function that we declare right here. And that self.show war speech timers equals self.settings get show war speech timers. Excellent. So the other question is, where are we going to make use of this? So war speech. Okay. War anything. Show me war. There we go. Is valid war speech effect. So in the effect added, we have a special callout that says if is valid war speech effect, then we need to call war speech added. But here's where we can go ahead and say no. First, we're going to say if show war speech timers is on and it's a valid war speech. So both of those have to be true. First, the war speech, and then the war speech effect. Yeah. Are we showing them and it's a valid effect? Because if we are not showing them, then we don't even want to check to see if the thing that we just got, there's no point in spending the time on that. Ooh, we have a post and L delivery. Okay. So this should allow us to discriminate based on that option setting. Let's come on back into the game, unload that plugin, and now we can see we have the show war speech timers, which means if it's off, we should not see those little red timers that we added just underneath the ballads. If I activate show war speech timer, didn't happen. Okay, so close. Now, we didn't get any errors in our plugins window here, which is only keyed into the error and standard channels. So nothing in our code failed to run. It just means I wrote the wrong code. That's okay. That happens. Let's come back on into the options window and see what happened right. I did not pull enough pins. So the show war speech timers checkbox, that needed to be self settings. We need to set the initial setting and we need to update here. Awesome. So in our settings, we know one of them was get war speech timer. All right, we're going to set that here for the initial value. And here we're going to set show war speech timers. Awesome. I'm imagining when we reload this, it's going to... Oh, I think I clicked it twice. Awesome. All right, so if we activate, cool, now we have an error. Now we see attempt to call method, set show war speech timers a nil value. Oh, of course, because I haven't done them yet. So we're just going to add a little helper function here at the bottom. What did we say we're going to call it? Set war, show war speech timers. Excellent. So changed. Okay. Now let's do a quick little find replace. Make sure that's what we called it. Nope. Excellent. Set, and then let's come on back into that function and make sure it's doing what we want. So settings, here's where we do the settings call. My mistake. I'm not sure why that this sort of extra step of abstraction is happening, but abstraction is generally pretty good, so why not? Okay, let's go ahead and unload and reload the plugin, and then come back in and try checking the box. Checking the box no longer throws an error, so we can go ahead and see what happens. Awesome. We have a war speeches being drawn just like expected. Perfect. Now what happens if I turn it off? Now, it doesn't actually clear the existing timers. Those timers only last 8 seconds. That's code that doesn't feel necessary to write. But as we're using Major Ballad, we don't see any new timers being loaded up into the UI. So perfect. No show war speech timers checked. No show war speech is happening. And then we recheck it and we do zoom. Excellent. Follow-up question, is the state of the checkbox being saved properly? Let's go ahead and unload and load to come back in. It's off. Let's put it on, unload, reload, and it's on. Go ahead and complete the circle here, and it's off again. Great. So we have a setting that allows people to opt into the war speech display. It's off by default, so it shouldn't bug anyone who doesn't want it, because it may not be the most intuitive of user interfaces. So let's go ahead and pull open our source control and commit this as a change. So first of all, I am being reminded to fix the thing, but we're not quite there yet. Okay, in the main UI, now let's go into the options UI. In the options UI, we have a show war speech timers checkbox, and that's going to be a good title for this. Added option to control war speech timers visibility. Great. And so we can go ahead and pull both the checkbox and that helper function out of the options window changes. Now going into the settings, same thing. We have an initial callback function that's not there, and the getter and setter helpers for this setting. Perfect. And then we have the show war speech timers text for the options UI in English and eventually German and French, but we have their entries. And in the main window, we have that, we have a local cache of the setting that we can use when we are parsing the effects list. So we have a Boolean there. We have a request to know when that value changes, so we can update the cache, and we have the use of it to no longer be doing the display. Perfect. All right, that is the sum of the changes necessary to add in this option to squelch the war speech display. Cool, done. Commit. Love it. Okay, I had a reminder to fix the thing. We should now fix the thing. And what I mean by that is that there is a capability in, I gotta find a place where it's messing up here. All right, buff window, surely. There we go. The Visual Studio Code program that I'm using has an extension, the LOTRO API extension, and it has an understanding of how the turbine classes work if you have it set up correctly. And I do not currently have it set up correctly, and I need to fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and close down Visual Studio Code for a moment and come back in to a brand new Visual Studio Code. Oh, it's just going to put me back where I am. Never mind. I'm going to go ahead and close the workspace using the file menu, close workspace. And I'm going to reopen the workspace. Instead of from the saved file, I'm going to go ahead and open the folder. And this is Lord of the Rings Online, plugins, MinstrelBuffs. And that's going to force a refresh of the settings.json file. There we go. Bam. You can watch it happening. It's very cool. And it's that update right there. The paths were too old to be working anymore. Lunar Water did a refactor of things that moved some stuff around, and with my file stuck in the old version, the turbine libraries were no longer being recognized properly. Cool, problem solved. I'm going to go ahead and resave, save workspace as, and I'm going to overwrite that old workspace file so that now it's just there. Oh, while that's reloading, I'm going to grab more water. Excellent. Okay, so one of the things that it's very nice to see is a lot of the warnings that were being auto-shown over here in the Explorer are no longer there. There's 5 of them in the main window. That's exciting. But the vast majority of the warnings are no longer there. Just out of curiosity, what's going on with those? Okay. Well, that's fun. All right, I'm going to divert just a moment because I am curious about this. So, MinstrelBuff window. MinstrelBuff main. So, where is the window? Minstrel. Interesting. MinstrelBuff settings. Huh. Why is that not loading in? Settings equals class. Yeah, that's probably it. Okay. Oh, there's a little bit of chat. Let's see. Oh, no. Okay, thanks so much for chiming into chat there. You are experiencing a problem with the MinstrelBuff plugin. And this was, I neglected to include a file in the patch, in the most recent patch. That was totally an issue on my part. So if we come into MinstrelBuff, if we do a search, that auto combat timer, there is a temporary fix that you can go ahead and add code into the file. What did I recommend, if anything? Let's see. Yes. So if you add this code to the bottom of settingsencoder.lua, and let me go ahead and pop this link into chat there. And that is a link to the patch that we're talking about. You can manually paste this code into the bottom of settingsencoder.lua, and that should fix your problem. And in fact, if you want to do it now and report back if you have any problems, we can kind of debug the issue. But that's all that's wrong is I did not push out that file in this last patch, and so that was missing. So I would love to fix this problem for you if we can get to that. But no worries if you don't get it here. You can always just post on that thread in the forums if there's something else wrong. But that's what's up with that is this code is just missing. Super easy fix if you feel comfortable manually editing the text files in the plugin. Specifically, settings encoder, put it at the bottom, done. Cool. Thanks for asking about that. That was kind of a boneheaded move on my part. I just overlooked the file, and I have so many other changes I want to put into the next patch. It just keeps on snowballing, and yeah. Oh, phone, why do you keep rotating? Okay, okay, so we have some reference issues. This is really interesting, and I think it is based on how we're defining stuff. Yeah, buff window equals class. I think because we have custom classes and we haven't annotated them in the system, that we're getting those warnings. Is it that, or is it that these are fully qualified? What would happen if I were to just say settings? Do you know what that is? You do know what that is. Okay, I gotta try this out. Self.settings. Okay, what's the problem here? Redundant parameter. Does buff win? Wait, why? Why is it redundant? It takes the settings. Oh no, wait, what? Okay, that's funny. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I don't know the full implications of it, but I have a feeling that this is less necessary than it looks. Okay, cool. I'll put a pin in that. So, where are we? I fixed a thing. Okay, so coming back into our source control, I said fix the thing. That is done. So I'm going to go ahead and discard that. And what else is different? Yes, the two VS Code files. We're just going to go ahead and commit those VS Code update. Awesome. Commit. So at that point, the only thing that's different is our option window show debug options equals true. At this point, I think we're safe to switch on back to the Melodic Interlude branch. Now, we can see what this looks like. We have the develop branch and we have the melodic interlude branch, and they diverged back here. And visually, you can see how one of them is going in one direction, one of them is going in the other direction. And this is one of the powers of using a modern source control system. Not really anyone, but especially a modern one. Is you can be working multiple things simultaneously. Multiple people together can be working on stuff, and they can all be in their little silos. And then at some point, you decide to go ahead and merge the changes from one branch to another, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. Oh, awesome! Kay in chat says that addition of the code fixed it. So glad it's working for you. I don't know how I would play a Minstrel without the MinstrelBuff plugin, so super glad that's all it took to make it work. All right, so we're going to go ahead and switch back to the melodic interlude stuff, or I should say the melodic interlude branch. So the first thing is we're going to go ahead and double click on that in the UI to go ahead and switch it on over. So we can see in the UI, we have a little check mark. Over on the left for our branches, we can see melodic interlude, freedom melodic interlude is bolded. These are our keys that show us what branch we're working on. But one of the things, oh, that's funny, forgot to push how to change and develop. Interesting. I'll have to look into that. So, but I do want to go ahead and have all those things we were just doing with war speech here on the melodic interlude branch. So if I right click on develop and go ahead and, okay, that's just bothering me. Hang on, I'm going to switch back. So can I push out that change so it's working? Okay, there we go. That unpush change was just bugging me. So switching on back, and you can just bounce back and forth and back and forth. Super easy. Right click on develop in the UI. There's multiple ways to do this, but we're going to right click on the UI. We're going to merge that into the branch we're in. And it's going to ask, do we want to fast forward, or do we want to do a merge commit? I like doing merge commits. I'm just used to doing that. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Oh no, one of the local changes will be overwritten. Cool. It's telling me that I would lose work if I didn't do something. Okay, let's come back in. Options window. Oh, in this case, it would overwrite this line with an identical line, but it doesn't really know that. It just sees that there's a potential issue and stops, which is great. This is where a human looking at it is really best. So we're going to go ahead and discard this because we know we're just going to get it back. We're coming back in, and we're saying merge into our current branch. Awesome. Do the thing. Really? Oh, funny. Though, two things. That the Visual Studio Code file, it's not a part of the plugin, it's just the file that we're working with, needs to be merged, or just choose one or the other. So, show me a conflict. And what do we have here? Yeah, we definitely just want to take the one on the right. So, not a problem. I'll save that merge output. I don't really have merge conflicts very often on this stream, so very exciting for certain definitions of exciting. So I'm using Beyond Compare to do a three-way merge, and it has a next conflict. It knows the things that are actually a problem. Cool. Okay. So we are seeing the fact that we changed the height in both branches. How we do that? So over on the left here, I do want that initial height to be taller, the 450. And on the right, I just want the adjusted height to be different. So in fact, I'm going to take all of the left, but I'm going to take that other change manually by saying height plus 200. That's actually under my head. This window is so big. I'm going to take all of the changes on the left, 450, height plus something, and then just change the value of what the height is. We're going to be height plus 200, and that's going to be fine. Check for next conflict. That's all. Save that, merge, bam, done. Okay. So we have manually resolved, whoops, I'm hitting the wrong keys here. We've manually resolved that merge conflict, and we're going to get an automatic message here. And that just reminds us later, oh, these were the files that a human had to be involved just in case there's a problem. But I don't think there will be. Okay, so that was more exciting than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be straight on over, but this is what happens when two people, or the same person at two different times, make changes in a close enough area of a file that the automatic tools can't figure out which one is authoritatively correct. Sometimes it's one of them, sometimes it's the other, or as we just saw, sometimes it's a mix of both of them. And a merge tool like that gives you the ability to see both of the things coming in and what the combined output will be. And that's a three-way merge. And that's going to be very useful to kind of evaluate, oh, which one is correct? Oh, they're both correct. Neither are correct. Something weird's going on in a sort of a safe, controlled environment before you make permanent changes. Love it. Sometimes I hate it, but I love the utility of it. Okay, so we are in the Melodic Interlude branch, but we have the war speech stuff, which means if we come in here, we have the show war speech timers. Awesome. Now what we don't have is that stash of Melodic Interlude stuff. So we're going to go ahead and apply that stash. And now we have the changes. And I'm not ready to commit that. Now we have those changes in the option window. We got the debug options. We've got our work in progress. So if we reload it one more time, we're back where we started. We have our debug options, but now we have the war speech timers option also. Very cool. Okay, we have successfully added an option for war speech timers, and we're back to where we started with the Melodic Interlude UI being here, but not great. That timer that just is scrolling across the top there could be better. I kind of like the color change. I might keep the color change, but we're going to go ahead and pop up a new window. And so let's come back in to our code. We can go ahead and see that we started with a Melodic Interlude window, and that's a very good place to start. All right. Okay, let's come back in. Oh, add option to disable war speech timers. Done. Was there anything else? There were some little bits that I was thinking about. Let's go ahead and tidy up this to-do file. War speech improvements. Let's go ahead and remove all the stuff we've done. And these are just a couple things that would be cool. Then visibility equals. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that is great. And then. Let's see, and we have done this, but we're still, okay, so Melodic Interlude. Let's go ahead and rename that correctly. Add a timer bar below, yep, done. So we need a new window. We're gonna enable the movement. We're gonna hide it, awesome. And yes, when a Melodic Interlude activates, that is green musical notes that show around your character. I think that's really cool, but I never notice it enough to realize what's going on, and I really want that on-screen timer. So thanks to, I think, Chroma, who pointed out that was a thing that existed and what it was. Oh, and the option panel isn't quite tall enough. Fixed. Okay, and down below is stuff from refactoring or general restructuring of the plugin. So we'll just stay above that line for right now. Awesome. Okay, so we have a Melodic Interlude window, and for this it might be useful to go ahead and what we were probably doing before and mimic a current Windows construction. Let's go ahead and import turbine.ui.lotro. Oh, turbine.ui to start. Let's see. Why is set position? No definition found. Interesting. Boy, I sure would like that to be found. What's going on with that? Sometimes the Visual Studio Code Lua warnings don't quite jive with the way I want them to in my head. That's okay. We'll come back to that and sort that out. But in the meantime, we can keep on going. So buff window doesn't use its constructor to construct. It goes ahead and does that in the start function. So that's where we're gonna see a lot of this. Well, I'll tell you, calling out windows as a contain thing definitely solves some of these function lookups. Okay, so we have a set position, a set size, and a set back color. But we have that set position looking at the wrong things. So let's come back into our settings. We had a get main position X and Y. We had get soliloquy position X and Y. Now we have get melodic interlude position X and Y. So we're going to want to make sure we use those. And then it might be a good idea to skip forward to be able to see the window on the screen. But let's see. Let's think about that. Where does drag bar comes into it? Well, I'm thinking about it. Let's go ahead and import the drag bar library. And let's see. Okay, it just does it temporarily. I could see that. Okay, so the first goal is we want to get the melodic interlude window visible. So let's go into, I'm going to guess main, and see, did we already do that? I don't see us having done that. So let's go ahead and construct it with MinstrelBuff. Hang on a second, where did the soliloquy window get constructed? Do we want to do something similar? Yeah. I think doing it in the MinstrelBuff mains constructor makes me happier. So self dot, and this is just going to be melodic interlude window, and we're going to go ahead and initialize that to a new melodic interlude window, and we're going to go ahead and pass self dot settings. Now I'm curious if that works the way I think it should work. Without the full referencing here. I don't remember if it does or not. So we'll see. And in that window, we're going to do two things. I want to do a turbine.shell.writeLine because I want to convince myself this is actually doing something. Constructor. And we want to go ahead and set our set visible to true. That's a temporary thing. You don't want the window to be visible by default. But it's a good way for us to see that it's working. Okay, first of all, we do have an error. We did not, I think, include the melodic interlude window file in main. So let's fix that now. Okay, we can see buff window, soliloquy tracker window. Let's go ahead and import. And we're going to copy that same dot separated structure. But instead of soliloquy tracker window, it's going to be melodic interlude window. And you don't include the .lua. That is implied since this is Lua. Okay, awesome. Even more problems. Where are we? Unable to resolve package, turbine.ui.window. Great. I mean, I say great. It's a little inconvenient. Oh, of course, I meant to type LOTRO, but I was thinking about Windows in LOTRO. That's not going to work. Okay, so now we can see it is loaded. That window is not visible, but it is loaded. Now, we said to set the back color. We said set the size. So in theory, it should be somewhere. I'm not seeing it, though, which is a good sign that it's not somewhere. That position, though, let's go ahead and comment this out and just make it show up somewhere. So self set position, and we're going to set that to be 200, nah, 500, 200, something obvious in the middle of the screen. Okay, great. It's not there yet. So we're setting a back color, we're setting a size, we're setting visible to true. Oh, we're not seeing that output for constructor, which was definitely something we wanted to see. Oh, it's figured out that it's a window. Awesome. Thank you, Lua. Let's go ahead and back into main and make sure. Okay, so it looks like my wondering, did that need to be here, has been answered. It does. Or does it? What's going on? It's always fun when you think something should work and it just does not work at all. And okay, well, what did I do? So I am setting this, and I really do feel like it should be. So let's just add another turbine.shell.writeLine. And we'll just say making the thing. And then within that constructor, take me there, please. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong line. Melodic Interlude window. Within this constructor, yes. Yeah. We'll just move this right line up to the very top just in case there's a problem. So, Melodic Interlude window constructor. Let's try that again. Making the thing, but no. Okay, I'm doing something wrong with this constructor. Oh, of course. I was calling turbine.ui.window, but no, that is right. Well, let's be baffled. What's going on here? I called it construct instead of constructor. That's great. That's never going to work. Constructor is a special name. You have to call it constructor. You can't just call it random, arbitrary things. All the letters are important. There we go. Now we have a green... We've got a green square. Oh my goodness. But when I think something should be working and it's not, it's just important to go back to fundamentals. Is the code being run? Put in a debug output, we can see, no, the code wasn't being run. And that was a good starting point to be like, why isn't the code running? Which can be a frustrating endeavor, but that's sort of the process. My mental process is, okay, find code that is running and figure out what's different. So there we go. We can go ahead and get rid of this right line because we're back. Guy says, this is mad wizardry. Yeah, sometimes it feels like it's just the magic holding it all together. Let's go ahead and use our global position X and Y instead of a hard-coded position. Setting the size is still fine, the back color is fine, and the visibility is just for testing. For testing. Awesome. So we can unload and reload, and we still have it. And we just have that one more of our debug statements making the thing to remove. Awesome. So the next thing, we have a window. On the to-do list is we want the window to move. An upside of making a turbine.ui.window is that it can look like whatever you want. So for instance, the standard turbine.ui.LOTRO.window has this blue title space for a title. It has a little X in the upper right, has this fancy border. It looks and feels a certain way and gives you some default stuff like being able to move the window and being able to resize the window. But it's all or nothing. You get all of the fanciness, but you also get all of the UI. So if you want your MinstrelBuff UI to look different, like this one does, then you don't use a turbine.ui.LOTRO.window. You just use a turbine.ui.window. Then it is just a bare canvas for you to work on, or in this case, a green canvas, because we said make it green. But that's it. It's just a box on the screen, and you do all the heavy lifting, including moving it around. So For moving a window, there is a library, drag bars. We've used it before on this stream, but let's go ahead and go back to the LOTRO interface site. We're going to go search for drag. And we can see the drag bar with examples. I'll go ahead and paste a link into chat here. This is very handy. Sorry, one of my screens is doing weird things. Where did I put that? That's not where I wanted that. Okay, sorry. Yes, this is a very handy because it mimics the default in-game way of moving your HUD items around. My default key binding for this is Control \\, and it lets you move all of the windows. And if a plugin is using this drag bar, it's going to look exactly the same. We can see the MinstrelBuff has the same title. It has the little compass rose thingamajiggy, and if I click and drag, it looks the same, including drawing a little box around around the UI element that we are moving. Super awesome. All of that comes from that library. And so we're going to go ahead and use this for our new window as well, the little green box. So how do we do that? So in buff window, we can see that drag bar is being referenced in a function called UI locked. And I suspect it's actually being called from main. Awesome. So UI locked is being called from something. Kind of curious where. Okay. Yeah, we're definitely getting it from process key down. Where's the main window getting it from? Oh, it also has a process key down. Somehow I just missed it. Awesome. So any control can request keyboard interaction. And so buff window is processing a key down. It's looking for the reposition UI key. And with that key, it's going to go ahead and toggle the state, locked or hidden, depending on the key. And so we can do the same thing. Now, part of me wishes there was just a central place that was dispatching these two things to all the stuff, but I can appreciate each window kind of caring about its own keystrokes. So we need two things. We need to request keystrokes, and then we need to check to see what they are. And this feels like a lot of redundant work. Hang on. How often do we process key down anyway? Buff window's doing it, Soliloquy window's doing it. It just is starting to feel excessive. And we're always looking for reposition UI and toggle UI. Okay. So what I want to do is, look, we have a main. Is it a thing that we can use? It is not. Okay, so that's part of the problem, is we don't have a control on which to hang this. It's pretty easy to do. You can just make a bare control. It's a size 1, it's invisible, it's hidden, and it receives the keystrokes, and then you can send them on off. But I'm overthinking it. We're not pressing these keys very often, although we are pressing some keys. So we get a key down anytime someone presses the primary mouse button, or the secondary mouse button, or any of the key bindings that you can find in the key mapping section of the options. Any of these generates them. But on the one hand, so no, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. These are not getting hit that often. They're just, even if you're using keyboard for all your skills, they're just not getting hit that often from a computer's point of view, a couple times a second maybe. This, I think, should be in a central place with a multiple dispatch system, but multiple dispatch could just be just as time-consuming and inefficient. And this way, each component is in control of its own stuff. It's fine. It's fine. I need to stop overthinking it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to keep overthinking it. So, so what we need is two things. We need the melodic interlude window to want key, to request key strokes. And so set key something something. I don't remember what it is, but here we go. Set wants key events. So that's a self. Set wants key events to true. And we're going to need to set the key down function to something. So self.keyDown equals function, and that's an anonymous function. It's going to take center args. I don't know if we'll do much with them, but we can come on in and see, okay, we're going to make a function. Let's see. So self process key down, and we'll go ahead and pass on the center and the args. And the reason we're writing it like this is this. Oh, of course, I haven't written it yet. Key down is expecting a function, not a function that is a member of a class, just a general function. And so it doesn't know about this parameter to pass to a function, and this kind of bypasses it by giving it an anonymous function that then calls a class function. We're going to promote it to have that implicit this, and self is going to work. It's going to be great. So now we can go ahead and implement that process key down function and trust that we're going to get those. Now, as it turns out, we can just kind of lift this whole function, except instead of buff window, we want that to be melodic interlude window. And then we can go ahead and we don't have the hidden stuff yet. We'll comment that out. But the UI locked, we can kind of copy that too. The fact that we're copying so much maybe suggests there should be a base class that these windows are deriving from that has this base functionality in it. That's not a today problem, but it's a thought to tuck into the back of our mind nugget as a, maybe we can take that common code, put it into its own class, and have these be deriving from that class, and write this code once instead of now 3 times for each of the different windows. Sometimes you just don't know what's going to be common code, though. Your plugin might start out with a single window, and okay, now we're making a second window, and there's a lot of the same stuff. Okay, now we're on to the third window, and now we can start to see these commonalities. So again, rename this so it's not a buff window function. The fact that it's in a different file does not matter to Lua. It'll be fine with it. Okay, and so we're seeing some stuff. Self.locked. Let's go ahead and make sure that's initialized. And we're going to do that in the constructor. So we're going to have self.locked equals true, because we start out by default, everything is not movable around. And we hope that the plugin just being launched at when you log in. And so that's a good default value. We can pre-put the hidden, self.hidden equals false. And that's the F12 key is the default, and that's the thing that hides the HUD like this. And we can see right now that green box doesn't care about hiding the HUD, and we would like it to. Okay, so we have locked and hidden. Great. Let's come on back into the UI locked function and see what else do we have. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. Let's just collapse down that function. Okay. Nope. My goodness. UI locked. There we go. Okay. Oh, right. I have it over here. So we have self.locked. Awesome. We're going to go ahead and create a new drag bar if we're unlocking. That's going to be a MinstrelBuff window.dragbar. We're going to pass self, not self.window. And we're going to pass melodic interlude. I'm hesitant not to include MinstrelBuffs in there, but if the title gets too long, it doesn't fit. So MB : melodic interlude is my current place to go with that. Okay. What do we have here? Why is self making our parser unhappy? Well, we'll give it a moment to think about that. Okay. Is it because it doesn't recognize this constructor? Uncertain. Okay, so we have the set bar on top, excellent, visible, draggable. I really feel like this, again, a lot of common functionality here. That's okay. Stay on focus. Stay on target. Set size change, drag bar layout, set draggable target, and yeah. Okay, once we're done moving, we're going to go ahead and set, not main position, but we need to go ahead and set the position. We need that functionality. We also need a set visibility function. Melodic Interlude window, set visibility. We're going to go ahead and have that function. It's not going to do anything right now. Okay. And cool. Let's go back into settings and take a look at that set main position. Set main pulse. Excellent. We want something similar to that. We have a get set, get soliloquy. Did we not set that? We do. We set it right here. So my melodic interlude split those up accidentally. So let's go ahead and bring these melodic interludes out from between the soliloquy functions. And there we go. So we're going to go ahead and say set melodic interlude pause, but this is going to take two parameters, x and y, in one go. So melodic interlude position x, melodic interlude position y, and done. So this is a really nice way to do it. We do not worry about the window position until after you're done saving it. Once you've turned off the window move feature, then we save it. So if you're a plugin developer, that can be kind of frustrating because you'll move the window, like I'll move the window and then I'll unload the plugin and it won't have saved the position because it only saves after we leave that mode. So I think it's nice for the users. It can be a frustrating experience from a plugin developer when you're like, why didn't it move? Oh no, everything's broken. So now that we have that function, let's go ahead and bring it back in. So settings, self.settings, set melodic interlude position, and we're going to go ahead and call self get position. Let's go ahead and see what happens if we unload and reload this plugin. Nothing! There's an error. Awesome. I love errors. It tells me a line number. This is line 17. Set once key. Wow, did I misspell that? May not have been looking at the screen at the time. Let's try that one more time. Awesome. So, what happens if we do our control backslash? As expected, MB melodic interlude is wrapping lines. I'm not sure just melodic interlude is going to be much better, but let's give it a try. All right. Oh, I forgot to turn off the move. Gotta do that. Okay, melodic interlude, still too long for the size of the window. The question is, how big is the window going to get? But the answer is not very, because I want it to be big enough for the Raise the Spirit and for Chord of Salvation, and that's about it. Anything else will just be fanciness. And that was part of the reason why I think the window is only 100 wide, because we know each of those icons is 32. It's already bigger than it needs to be. In fact, we can draw this back. Oh, well, is it? Maybe it's not as big as it needs to be. Let's go ahead and unload this, and let's go ahead and make it more like 150, just to try that out. Okay. Oh, of course. I have enlarged my UI. Those are starting at 32 pixels wide, but by now they're probably about 50 pixels. And so that's just that's a me mistake. So we'll put that back down to 100. It's going to be less than that. We'll come back to it though. So let's go ahead and put a pin in that by coming in here and saying check that drag bar's title is not too long. And then I'm just going to let that disappear out of my head. I'm not worried about it. Cool. New problem. The next thing that we want to do is when we have this window. In fact, let me drag it back out to where it's a little bit more visible. We want this to also hide when we hit F12. So similar idea. We're going to come on into the UI hidden function of buff window. And we're going to do something very similar. We're going to lift out this function. And now that we have a UI hidden, we can go ahead and uncomment this. Do need to remember to rename the class here. Okay, so we have a UI hidden with a new thing. We're going to set the value hidden to that, and then we're going to just call set visibility. And so the real magic is going to be in set visibility. Let's take a look at that function now, though. Set visibility. Dun, dun, dun. It's all over. Okay, so the buff window is actually not a great example of set visibility because there's a lot going on there. So let's go ahead back to the soliloquy tracker window. Well, how do you do it? Set hidden, set visible. Oh, of course. Yes. This is going to be much better. So we have a couple of state variables to care about. Is the window trying to be shown? And for 10 seconds, it will be. Is the window trying to be hidden? And the combination of these is going to end up being our visibility. Though I will say, I'm a little confused about what's going on here. Self is visible. Ooh. Interesting. Okay, let's divert a little bit here. Let's go ahead and change over to a Watcher of Resolved stance. This gives us the Soliloquy Spirit ability. And in the options, we'll need to go ahead and turn on Use Soliloquy Tracker. He said confident that this was going to work. What's going on here? I'm gonna unload and reload. Okay. Not sure. Okay, but this is the Soliloquy of Spirit Tracker. So what happens if the UI is off? Well, it works. Okay. I just wasn't expecting it to work from what I saw. UI is hidden. Is coming from self is visible. Okay, well, let's come back to that. Set visible. UI hidden, set visible. Well, what is going on here? It just doesn't seem like that should work. All right, well, whatever. I'm not complaining. Let's process key down. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and self UI hidden. Oh, we are calling that, yeah. Not self is visible. Let's start with that. This may be not correct for our purposes, but we'll give it a try. In that case, we're going to come back in here and self.hidden is just not going to be engaged. UI hidden, we're going to do the same thing. UI hidden, we're going to actually get is visible as a parameter there. And then we're going to make a local variable. Local is used and visible equals self.used. Let's call it. Let's keep used for right now. Oh. Right. That is that setting. You know, that's not terrible. Let's go ahead and populate from settings, which is a reminder that we need to add a setting to control this. Add a setting to control if Melodic Interlude a window pops up. I almost think like that should be mandatory, but maybe some people would find it distracting. They're really used to the green notes or something. I don't know. I'll never intentionally use that though. Okay, so self.used is going to be populated from there, but for right now, it's always going to be true. How does this work? I don't understand how this is supposed to work. What did I do? I don't understand. All right, UI hidden is just invisible, self.used, and is visible. Sure. And then just set visible to is used and visible. Sounds great. I really don't understand this. Okay, but if we hit F12, the green thing goes away. And that's the key right there. So if we unload, come back in, if we're on F12, and we go ahead and use this, we do see that this soliloquy tracker is working. Thank you, Winter, for giving me the ability to have more than one target being tracked. Oh, and a guard. Why not? Oh, it doesn't work. Okay, so the green window, we're going to want to control whether it's visible with this start and stop melodic interlude functionality. But this is a good starting point. So with set visibility, we're probably not going to do that anymore. Instead, UI locked is simpler. In fact, I should have looked at soliloquy tracker window in the first place. I really think that this is a lot of extra on top of what we need. So let's go ahead and simplify it down with the soliloquy tracker window approach. I go through in chat says, I love that point in the dev process when you ask, how is that other thing working? Yeah, I lift from other plugins, I lift from myself, having done other things. I get inspired by those things all the time. And someone was messaging me in Discord saying, oh, hey, how do you do the thing? And the thing was something I did not know how to do. And so my answer was, I don't know, but this other plugin seems to do it. So my first instinct would be to crack that one open and peer into the innards and see how do you do the thing? And maybe I don't lift exactly how it does the thing, but knowing that it does the thing means that it is at least possible. And I appreciate that. Okay, so we have self.locked equals locked. Awesome. Is visible draggable? Oh. So the point was, yes. The point was if you have your HUD on and for some reason you hit the unlock button, the point was to not get you into that problem. Or was it? Well, soliloquy tracker window is still doing it. But I think that's what the goal was. Oh, interesting. Yeah, set visibility is having problems. Yeah. That's fascinating. Okay, we're gonna come back in here and look at that UI locked function. Is visible or draggable? Set visible to true. Well, now do I want to copy that? Probably. Okay, so we have a self.drag bar in the soliloquy of spirit tracker. We make it once. And we're going to go ahead and lift that code over here. Okay, so self.locked equals true. Let's go ahead and add a self.dragBar. This is going to be a drag bar. We're passing ourselves, and we do want to go ahead and pass in a title. Now, the drag bar title for window, let's come on in here and add a melodic interlude. Title equals, and that's going to be, sure, melodic interlude. And this is where we'll go ahead and add in language support. So, coming into the French, into the German. Looks like the German is missing. No. There's just the two of them. Okay, good. Excellent. Okay, so we have not a drag bar title, but a melodic interlude title. Very good. This is where we'll go ahead and create that drag bar and populate the initial settings. Unindent. And we have the set bar on top. Yeah. Set bar visible, false. Set draggable, false. Size changed. We will always just want to know about that size change here. And then in the soliloquy tracker window, we're going to come on over to the UI locked function. Awesome. All right, let's just assume I knew what I was talking about and copy this on over. Okay, so we do want to use that set melodic interlude position. Awesome. But the rest of it, we're not worrying about the size change stuff, so we can kind of replicate the refactoring that we did. We don't want to set the stuff to nil. Set draggable is either being set to true or false. Yeah. Set target didn't seem to matter, so that was part of the destruction. Set melodic interlude position is being called. We're not worrying about the set visibility. Set bar visible. Yep. And set bar on top, I think we're not bothering with. Awesome. And that's it. That's all of the stuff that we're eliminating there. All right, let's give that a try and see if we like that. But the UI hidden is going to be unchanged. Okay, so F12, it's gone. F12, it's back. Move it around and unmove it, unload, reload. Awesome. We have our settings. We have a window position. We have the ability to respond to F12. So people's screenshots won't be ruined. It's great. Okay, so those were some big ones. In the to-do list, we went ahead and reminded ourselves that we wanted to make sure we could hide when the HUD is off. Now, we had a note here, the HUD could turn off and back on while the melodic interlude is trying to be active. And so that's a thing to pay attention to. That might be a little bit more complicated than the soliloquy tracker window, but I mean, no, because, oops, if we do a soliloquy tracker, and then we hide, and then we come back on, it should be on. Maybe it's always visible, but sometimes there's nothing being displayed. Maybe that's how they got around it. And by they, I mean maybe that's how past me got around it. Okay, so this could get more complicated. Awesome. And manual movement with drag bar is completely done. We're going to mark this as done for now. So let's go ahead, and we already had a place where we were opening up the timer. So let's go ahead and first pull that timer on over into this class so it's no longer in the buff window. And for that, we're going to come on into that buff window start function, and that's where we had the melodic interlude time display. And we actually want to go ahead and pull out any reference to this. So first, we're going to pull out the code that constructs it, and we're going to put it into here instead into the constructor for Melodic Interlude window. So we're going to go ahead, and we still have the set visible true for testing purposes. We're rapidly coming up on the end of that. Okay, so we're making a Melodic Interlude time display. Awesome. Remember, we're not going to do self.window, just self. Theme. Oh, no, we're just going to do for the width of this, it's going to be pretty fixed, and we're going to go ahead and say self get width. And the height, 4 was fine. Position 0, 0, that's fine. It's probably going to be at the bottom of this window for consistency, but it's fine for now. Melodic Interlude still just lasts 10 seconds. We're good to go on that. But let's find any other instances of Melodic Interlude time display. Awesome. Here we go. Buff window, Melodic Interlude start. So we want to go ahead and pull these on out. And instead, they're going to be linked to the Melodic Interlude window itself. So we're reclass these. And any place that says self.window, that is just self. Or is it? I mean, yes. So the background color, actually, I don't think we need to worry about, because this is always going to be visible. What we do care about is self set visible. Just thinking back to that whole, what if this triggers, well, the UI is off, is hidden. I think, how does this other one work? Oh, no, maybe? I still don't understand how this works. UI hidden, where is this? Self.use for UI hidden. My mind is boggling. I still don't understand how that works. I cannot trust my past self, for I no longer know what I was thinking. Okay, we're going to go ahead, and we have a self-locked. We have a self-used. Do we need a self-used? No. That'll be handled elsewhere. So instead, we're not going to do self-used. We're going to do self-shown, I think, instead. And that's going to be false. And we're not going to populate that from settings. This is going to be true if if Melodic Interlude is active. Chopper in chat says, "Hey, is this Lua? It's the only language I know." It is Lua. All plugins for Lord of the Rings Online and some other games are written using Lua, combined with the Turbine, such as it was named, the LOTRO libraries. And so if you come on into the API documentation, you can see some namespaces that give you access to things like windows, buttons, checkboxes, all of that. Turbine .ui, for instance, has buttons and checkboxes and list boxes and menu items, all of these things. And then there's a further specialized version of the UI that is skinnable and a part of the general theme. So a window that has this blue bar at the top and the X. Those would all come from the turbine.ui.lotro.window. And of course, Turbine was the name of the company that was running at LOTRO at the time this was introduced. And so even though LOTRO is currently run by Standing Stone Games, or SSG, the namespace in the plugin remained, and so you'll see that and hear that a lot for plugin development. Turbine.blah. That's what's going on there. So in the case where we're making a turbine.ui.window, or really we're subclassing it because we have our own window that is a window, but it has some extra stuff, that's what's going on here. Okay, and today I'm using a Visual Studio Code, a free tool with the LOTRO API extension, which gives some of that IntelliSense for the turbine-specific stuff. So for instance, let's see. I can do a self.dragbar : and see some of the possible functions I can call on that object. Chop in chat says, I love Lua. Was easy to get into. Yes, I totally agree. And used it for a couple of years, I think 4 years. I've been through the Roblox game development to core games development. That sounds cool. I don't actually know what it is, but it sounds like progress is being made. I don't use Lua much except as a vehicle with which to make plugins for Lord of the Rings Online. But my understanding is it's used for other things like World of Warcraft plugins and Factorio plugins. So it definitely has some utility, and it's a fine language, I guess. I don't really know all of the ins and outs, but it works. Okay, so I was just second guessing my past self and believing myself to be wrong. So we have a self.shown that we're going to use, and that's going to replace this self.used. And we're going to use the visibility. We need a self.hidden equals false. True if HUD is hidden. There we go. And that will override the state of the shown variable. Chop says, I'm going to have to get into making plugins in LOTRO then. Yeah, absolutely. If you play LOTRO and ever think, man, I wish something, like today, I wish that I knew when Melodic Interlude for Minstrels was being triggered, then yeah, absolutely. Now, the LOTRO API with which you can interact with the game is more restricted than some other games for security and such. And so you don't get an API to interact with the auction house, for instance, like you might be able to do in World of Warcraft. They were worried about, I think, people botting their way into the auction house and whatnot. And so your plugin can't just do arbitrary skills. In order to do a skill, the user has to click on your plugin, for instance. There has to be user interaction to do some things. But plugins can monitor chat, plugins can pop up UIs, plugins can do all sorts of cool things. Okay, so we have the more standard stuff here. So the UI hidden, what I'm expecting is that it is going to, instead of sending the is visible, it's going to be not self dot, and what did I call it? Hidden. So really, we just want the self.hidden to toggle. In UI hidden, we're going to go ahead and do self.hidden equals not, and again, this should be hidden, not hidden. And then we're going to go ahead and is, what did I call it? Is shown and not hidden. That is to say, are we trying to be seen and are not being squelched by the UI being off? Cool. And that should be pretty easy to write, is shown and not self, is and self dot hidden and not self dot hidden. Awesome. And then that's the visibility that we care about. I don't know what I was thinking with that other code, but it's gone now. Cool. So this allows us to toggle UI on and off with UI hidden. But we do want a general set visibility function to kind of mix with the rest of the system. And for that, we want a self melodic interlude window set visibility. And that's a central function that we'll use that itself will be doing the set visible call. So set visibility, and in here we're going to go ahead and do this. And that's going to be the central point. Oh, thanks, Agartha. There's chat. Yes, oh, Agartha says anti-botting. Yeah, absolutely. LOTRO was your first game ever, says Chop. Awesome. Started playing it 14 years ago. Nice. Ever since then, you want to make games and such. Fun. Yes, definitely. There are definitely plugin developers now who have been playing the game on and off for years. And I go through his link to LOTROinterface.com. Awesome. I'll even go ahead and throw in exclamation point plugins there. Yeah, as Little Redhead points out, plugins aren't a thing that SSG, Standing Stone Games, does itself. It's something done by fans for fans. So there's no one that you have to ask permission to. You just make a plugin, load it up to LOTROinterface.com, and maybe announce it on the forums. Okay, so we have a set visibility function. We're going to go ahead and make use of that. In the buff window, we see that being used to great effect because the visibility there is determined by, basically, is any of the things it contains visible, and it's not being squelched. And so let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. All right, so, if something, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, we have a window set visible to window get visible. And I'm kind of curious what that looks like. Let's make this a little bit wider. That's delightful. Yeah, that window's more complicated. I'm going to pretend that doesn't exist. So, set visibility. We want to know if we're shown and not hidden, and then we're going to set the visibility to that. Perfect. And so set visibility for UI hidden is good, but we also have set visibility anywhere else. And we can use this set visibility now in those new functions, Melodic Interlude start and stop. And so we have self.shown equals true, and then we can call set visibility. And we have self.shown equals false, and we can do self set visibility. Awesome, and we'll do that instead of changing colors. Let's see, XO. XO, I hope you're a joker when you say you stopped while waiting for permission. Chop says, I'm still a youngster though, getting to the years when you get busy. Absolutely. One of the reasons I like to stream here, there's two primary reasons. I like to share this with other people, and it forces me to at least get a little bit of progress done every week. Even if life gets crazy, I still have 2 hours here that I am technically working on plugins. And sometimes I'll get obsessed and spend way too many hours that I don't have at other times, but at least I have this. Okay, so we have a set visibility. Shown equals true, shown equals false, and that's going to recalculate. But self.shown definitely needs to be true in order for this to be shown. EXO is working on making a perfect user interface. Man, that is not hard. Like your Aura's plugin is very pretty to look at and very functional, and it's all about the UI. Like there's, I don't know. I do not envy you that task. Okay, and then we also have the timer. So we're going to get the game start, we're going to set the time, and the visibility of that timer. But that visibility of the timer, I think if the window is hidden, the timer should also be hidden. We're going to find out. We're going to test that. Okay, so we have start and stop. Awesome. Let's go back into buff window and see if anything else melodic has slipped through our grasp. Nope. But remember that call to Melodic Interlude start originated in main. So we're going to need to go hunt that down. Actually in a couple places. So in main, we can see we're doing self.buff window Melodic Interlude start. We have to stop that. We need to do self.melodic interlude window instead. And so we're going to come on in here, self dot, whoops, no, sorry, I've just hit the wrong key. Excellent. So self.buff window, we're going to come on in to do melodic interlude window instead. Same thing for the melodic interlude stop, but we also have this in our options window, where we're going to go ahead and call the main, we're going to dereference into melodic interlude window for both of those as well. Okay, so Chop says, you're running a company where you teach game development. Awesome. Yeah, and running your own company also takes a bunch of time that a normal job does not. So that's cool. You're also developing Sweden's biggest Minecraft server. So just one or two things on your plate. Excellent. You know what this server needs? More blocks. Okay, so we have, I think, moved all of our references on over. And that means this is a good time to come back into Melodic Interlude window and get rid of that for testing set visible, because now we want to see it appearing and disappearing based on our debug in-game. So first of all, almost certainly messed something up with all that refactoring. So when we try to load, we get error messages. I love the error messages. They give us a line number. Melodic Interlude window 71. Oops, this window's a little bit tall for that. Let's go look at line 71 and see what I mistyped. Awesome, I put a semicolon after the function declaration. That's just not right. That will not work. Let's go ahead and just reload. Sometimes it's just that, and that messes up the parse of the rest of the file, as we saw. Okay. So here we are. We can go ahead and hit the start button. Oh, that's exciting. Okay, we have a green window. We have a timer counting down. That's so cool. If we hit start again, it restarts the timer, and if we hit stop, it hides it. If we hit start, it shows it again. If I hit F12, interesting. It does not hide. So, put a pin in that. Oh, goodness. Top says they've been called to serve Sweden's army for the next year. Well, that's exciting. Good luck with all that political tensions in the world and stuff and things. Okay, why are we not hiding? Probably something to do with the set visibility function. So, first things first. We should know that turbine.shell.writeLine here, it's not a very good, but if I come on in, start, and press that, we can see that here is being hit. So that's fine. Now, the self UI hidden, we're going to come on in here. We can see the toggling and an immediate call to set visibility. So what we really want is to know that we got to the set visibility function. Now, those were all pretty basic function calls. So ideally, okay, so we did see those set visibility. But what we're not seeing is this. So is it shown and not hidden? So the hidden might not be updated properly. So let's go ahead and say turbine.shell.writeLine, setting self.hidden to. Now, Booleans do not format well without a two-string call around them. Just something to watch out for. Oh, of course. I did a self.hidden equals not hidden. That's not right. If we already negated it once. That's never going to work. Cancel. Okay, I feel really good about that being the mistake. So we're going to back out some of those debugs. Come on in here and hit that start, and F12 is fine. Whoops. Arthur says, good old printf debugging. Absolutely. When in doubt, convince myself that code is being executed. Chop says, was LOTRO made with Lua? No, LOTRO is almost certainly a C and or C++ program written The initial coding was probably started, well over 15. It was released 15 years ago, so maybe as much as 20 years ago. And the client is, and probably the backend server, are almost certainly written using compiled lower level languages, not Lua. Lua is definitely only used for plugins, and it's specifically Lua 5.1. There's newer versions of Lua out there, but SSG is not really in the business of incorporating those newer versions in for our coding pleasure. Exo says, got myself a nice dump function that converts all data types, including tables, into strings. Quite valuable. Absolutely. In fact, that dump function might even be present in here. There's oftentimes in plugins you'll see a general functions. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do a quick little search. Dump. Is that one in here yet? No. Okay, absolutely. I use that myself because one of the distressing things, if you try to dump out a variable and that variable is nil, it will be an error. It will be a runtime error that stops that functionality. Very distressing. Same thing with trying to spit out a Boolean. It's just not by default supported. Seems like a weird oversight, but a dump function that just checks for those cases and wraps it with a toString fixes all of that. Arthur, I think I reinvented the serialization function too. Yeah, you know, it's one of those things that because it's not in the core Turbine libraries, like there's 72 different, slightly different versions of the dump function and of all these other things that every author needs. And every once in a while you're like, well, what if it also had this? And then you've just forked that function. Okay, so we have a green window. That green window can be moved around with a control / using drag bar library. We can hide that using this. But let's see. Start it, hide it, yeah, it comes back, stop it. Great. All of that is looking fantastic. Let's come back to that to do. Make sure we hide. Hide can turn on. We've taken care of that. Okay, the timer bar. Now, currently the timer bar is not at the bottom of the window. I think aesthetically I want it to be. So we're going to come back in here, and we have a height of the window. Now, for usefulness, we're just going to say local window height equals 50, and then we can use that variable both here and let's see. Let's go ahead and have a timer height. I'm going to go ahead and pull these up away from all this initialization. Local timer height equals, I think we did 4 before. Yeah, that's fine. So we're going to go ahead and do a timer height for the size. And for that position, we're going to go ahead and still be 0 pixels from the left. But we want to go ahead and do self get height minus the timer height. So it is just far enough away from the bottom for our purposes. And then if we go ahead and load this back up and start that back, we can see the timer is now shifted to the bottom. Now, actually, since we're in our own window, we don't have to squeeze into the main window anymore. I actually want to go ahead and bump that height of the timer up. I want that to be more obvious. I'm going to start with 8. That's probably too much. I'm going to think that's crazy. I'm not convinced. 6 or 8. That's somewhere for the sweet spot for me. But what we don't have are the skills that you can use that we want to go ahead and put up there. And that's going to be Raise the Spirit, and that's going to be Improved Court of Salvation. Now, off the top of my head, I don't remember how to put skills into UI. That's no worry. We've got 20 minutes left to figure it out. But now's a great time to, let's see. Oh, Chop asks, I believe if my day job is programming, and yes it is. Not with Lua though, with C# mostly, but it definitely is helpful. So we started a little early today. Life Beyond the Shire was just before me. She finished about 7:30 our time, which would be 1:30 server time. I got started a little bit early. Oftentimes I run until 4 o'clock server time. Just to take advantage of that extra time. Excel points out, gotta have the skill code, absolutely, and a quick slot. Those are both excellent points. I do have the skill ID, or I'm about to. So, Chop says, you're in the same time zone. Absolutely, I am in the Netherlands, which is currently UTC +2, or Central European Time Zone, summer. Okay, so we're going to use a quick slot. We're going to find that in the turbine.ui.lotro, and that is a quick slot. I'm just pulling up the documentation here just to give it a once over. Yes. Do we have any samples? The documentation is a bit old and it lacks sample code in all of the places. There's online resources, of course, but just checking this. So we're going to set a shortcut up. There we go. Well, that's an undefined shortcut. Excellent. All right, shortcut item, shortcut type, and data. Fun. Now, as I said before, sometimes if I'm not sure how to do something, I might just go find a plugin that does the thing. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Travel Window is an excellent example of a plugin that shows a skill. Oh, Exo says never use it yourself, refuse to let you click skills. I do remember that. I'm sure that's why you're revamping the UI. Japan says I have an American accent. I am actually originally from America. I moved to the Netherlands, but I'm not yet a Dutch citizen or anything like that. But good ear on that one. The bonus points if you can tell which state of America I grew up in. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use the LOTRO plugin compendium to download and install the travel window. If you haven't seen this, this is a very useful tool for installing plugins. I launched the wrong thing, of course, and it showed up on the wrong screen. So no problems there. Okay, so it is loading here. We can see the LOTRO plugin compendium has come on up. This is a very handy third-party application by Lunar Water. And here I'm going to go ahead and say Travel Window 2. And go ahead and install that plugin. And it is done. So back into the game we go. We can see that Travel Window 2 has been added. If we load it on in, the first time it loads, it's going to go ahead and read my skills to see what travel skills I have. And that takes a minute. And then it goes ahead and constructs a window. Now, my only problem with Travel Window is its resize function tries to relay out the whole UI every pixel you move, and it's not ideal from a efficiency standpoint. Okay, so each one of these is a something, and if you click it, it does the thing. Oh, I do have Return to No Bottle. When did I get that? Fascinating. Huh. I didn't include it in a list sometime recently. I was telling someone, here's all the skills I have. And Chop is doing some excellent guesses into chat. Edgar Arthur in chat says, sequence bars and alerters are two plugins off the top of my head that I know that use quick slots. Excellent, yes. I pulled up Travel Window both because it's an awesome plugin, and I happen to know that it has things that I can click on. So let's pull that up in code. So if we go ahead and make a file new window in Visual Studio Code, we can go ahead and open, and the way to do this with the LOTRO API is you want to open a folder, and that's going to be Documents, LOTRO Rings Online, Plugins, and it'll be whatever folder is under Plugins that you're thinking about. In this case, Travel Window 2. And that'll get the turbine references right. Chop, those are some good guesses. That's none of them are where I grew up, but I have moved around a lot. Okay, so we have the Travel Window 2. Awesome. In source, we have all sorts of things. Now, when you're opening a new plugin, sometimes it's a bit of an exploration just to find the things. In this case, there's a window here. It has the head of the title of travel. So I'm going to guess Travel Window is a good source. Now the whole thing is called travel window, so this is a hard term to search for, but it's a good starting point. So we can see, first of all, travel window is a turbine.ui.lotro.window. Excellent. We can see this is a LOTRO window. It has the blue title bubble. It has all the stuff. So it is a LOTRO window. And then what else do we have? Set text, main title string. Awesome. What is that? We can see travel. Awesome. Not very localized, but that's okay. Or is it? Oh, yes, it is. It's a different function. Oh, neat. Does that mean that they do the same thing? Interesting. Wacky. Okay. So, Chaperon has rapidly approaching about 1/10 of the states of the U.S. I appreciate your enthusiasm. So close. Okay. So we can see this is probably the right window. Now we just want to see how are they making the things that I can click on and make a thing go and do. Exo says the real flex is singing the Animaniacs song. Wait, is that what you were saying? Okay. So we have a main panel. Awesome. That's promising. I'm not sure what it is. It's a D panel. It looks like a custom thing. Cool. We see some UI controls. We see get options panel. Actually, we know there's a refresh function. Refresh. Okay. I know there is a refresh function. Where did the little travel icon go? There we go. So if I look at this, if I check untrained skills, that could be a way to also find the population of this. But a for loop is almost certainly being done. So do I see a for loop? For. No, not yet. Okay. Oh, set shortcuts. Hey, that's promising. Awesome. Set generic travel items. Awesome. So we are doing travel shortcuts. Awesome. Oh, so they have a custom class, which is probably wrapping around a turbine shortcut. Awesome. What else are they doing? Setting enabled, setting disabled, setting the name. Interesting. Why are they setting the name? I don't know. Cool. Excellent. Arthur has proposed some code. Let's see. Yeah, I feel like the states on the border, on the outside perimeter, might have more identifiable accents. Okay. Chop says the thing I don't really understand is loops and arrays. Yeah, I get that. I kind of have to remember the for syntax when I'm looping through something. Arthur suggests local SC equals a turbine UI LOTRO shortcut, and setting the type to be a skill, and then setting the data to be a thing. Now, what you put in there for the args.qs data is an interesting question. What do we put in there? But it's, oh, stealing from a loader. Excellent, yes. So, that's an interesting point. If I search for shortcut type, surely I must find that, right? Oh, wrong window. Hilarious. Make it bigger. Ow. That's fun. Also amusing that that's the only time they use it. Okay, so we have some ideas. They're using shortcuts. We can start playing around with this. All right, so we have a timer. Let's go ahead and add shortcuts /quick slot for healing skills. Awesome. So this was the code that was suggested in chat by Egg Arthur. Making a shortcut. I'm going to add some spaces here. And in fact, we'll do a couple of these. We'll do raise the spirit shortcut equals that. And we're going to go ahead and set the type of skill. Awesome. The one thing that we don't have here is what are we going to do for the data? We'll come back to that. Put a pin in that. And we could do something very similar for a chord of salvation shortcut. Oh, Egartha thinks it is just the skill ID. Awesome. So skill IDs can be a little tricky. You can get plugins to help you work through them. But if you happen to have access to one of the data dumps, then that is the source of it too. So if we come in here and we look for raise the spirit, the real question is improved raise the spirit or raise my spirit any different than this? So raise my spirit is different. Fantastic. Though I'm wondering if you need to do that. The only time you can activate this is if you're in a red stance, but you're not necessarily in dissonance stance. So that's an interesting question. We're going to go ahead and say raise the spirit is something, raise my spirit is something else. Raise the spirit. Oh, it's right there. Why are there multiples of them? That's fun. Excellent says, you think you only need one since it changes any quick flat containing it? Excellent, excellent point. The other question I have is why are there two raise the spirits? Well, when in doubt, choose the later number. So we're going to go ahead and say raise the spirit. In fact, we can just go ahead and help ourselves and document both of them. That or that, question mark. And raise my spirit, there's only the one. Improved raise, cool. And chord of salvation, oh, we do have an improved chord of salvation. Interesting. Okay, improved chord of salvation. We're gonna go ahead and grab that. What about normal chord of salvation? Oh. So chord of salvation, 6321. Yep, that's the regular one. Sometimes writing a plugin is just doing a little bit of research. Okay, that's improved chord of salvation. Excellent. 312, yep. A different chord of salvation. Awesome. And then raise the spirit. Is there no improved version of it? Raise the chord of my salvation. Improved chord of my salvation. Great. Oh, excellent. Okay, improved chord of my salvation. Where'd my window go? Excellent. And we can see chord of my salvation down there. Like Arthur says, maybe they're different per stance. Yeah, maybe. But Court of Mai, just those two. There's a Court of Space Salvation here, which is suspicious. It makes me wonder if I accidentally deleted something from a file, but I'm just gonna hope not. Sometimes they will replace things with other things that look identical but are different internally. And from a backwards compatibility standpoint, I appreciate not wanting to break your fellow developers while you're trying something new. And then, what's the point of cleaning it up? It takes almost no space in your binaries. The time it takes to delete something that might break someone versus just leaving it just in case. Yeah, I mean, I can see why on each individual occasion that feels like a win for the developers. Okay, so we have some possible codes for each of these things. We have Court of Salvation, Improved Court of Salvation, Court of My Salvation, Improved Court of My Salvation. We do have Raise My Spirit, but I don't see an improved Raise My Spirit, which is interesting, because we saw that says the improved versions of these skills. Now, I'm not sure where improved Raise the Spirit comes from. So this is a good starting point. So if we go ahead and do a Court of Salvation, and we just start with regular Court of Salvation. Now, I like doing these numbers in hex where possible. And so if you have access to, say, a Windows calculator, you can put it into programmer mode, paste in your decimal value to get that hex value. And you can go ahead and just paste that in with 0x as a prefix, and that tells it is a hex number, but you'll have to actually hit copy before you do that. There we go. Same thing with Raise the Spirit. I'm going to go ahead and use the later number on the theory that might be more right. Put it back into decimal mode, paste it in, hex mode, copy it back out. I like doing it in hex mode because it's a lot more obvious to me that things are in the right range. These are both start with 700 as it is. That suggests they're both coming from the same range of stuff. That makes me feel better. Maybe all of the skills are in that range. Don't know, but these are. Crazy in chat says, are you tweaking plugins? I am tweaking plugins. Today I am tweaking the MinstrelBuff plugin. And we're about to try an experiment, although we're coming up here on the end of the stream. So if I go ahead and do a Start Melodic Interlude, oh, of course, I made a shortcut, but I didn't set a parent, and sorry, I'm trying to remember which one is the thing that you see, the shortcut or the quick slot. Crazy Trick says, I used to do this before I stopped playing around 5 years ago. Awesome. Did you publish any on LOTRO interface? And if so, what name did you publish them under? So do remember to call set parent. Oops, yes. Oh, that's not a valid function? Great, that's not the UI element. Shortcut and quick slot. What is a quick slot? It is a control. Shortcut is an object. Great, so we want quick slots. Raise the Spirit quick slot. So that's going to be turbine.ui.lotro. And that is a quick slot. And of course, we want to remember to parent our quick slot. So set parent. Make sure we parent it with something that eventually becomes a top-level control. Otherwise, we'll never see the thing. Now let's go ahead and move our quick slots together below the shortcuts. Crazy says, no, I would shamelessly take people's UI skins and then tweak them to infinity to my liking. No worries, that's completely valid. Chop says, thanks for the stream. Just watching along helps understand Lua and different ways to do things. You're welcome. Well, it'd be great to have you back. I'm here every Tuesday at this time, so 8 to 10 p.m. our time as it is. There we go. Tuesday, Moobot. All right, so we're going to go ahead and remember to set the parent of this item. Remember, if a UI element is not parented in some part of the hierarchy to a top-level control, you will never see the thing. It needs to be part of that hierarchy. Now, of course, we are a turbine.ui.window, so that is a top-level control, and so that is a fine parent for this object. All right, so quick slot. What do we do? Quick slot, set shortcut. Awesome. Let's go ahead and Chord of Salvation quick slot, set shortcut, and we're going to go ahead and use the Chord of Salvation shortcut. And we're going to do the same thing up here with the Raise the Spirit quick slot. I am rushing a little bit because we're pretty much at the end of the stream time, and I'd really like to see this up on the screen. I have a terrible feeling it's going to like crash my client because I've typed something wrong, but let's see. All right, we did get a runtime error. Quick slot. Invalid shortcut for the quick slot specified. Well, that's cool. Okay. Well, I fundamentally have misunderstood something about making those shortcuts and or quick slots, and that's okay. Sometimes you just need to do a little bit more research. I really wanted to squeeze it in, but it's just not going to be today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just pull that code out. Go ahead and do a multi-select, comment it all out, and bring it back in. So, note, didn't work on the first try. Maybe next time. And that'll be a fine place to leave it. So, what do we have? In our to-do file, we can open a new window with Raise the Spirit. Well, open a new window. Add Raise the Spirit and Chord of Salvation skills. Open a new window is done. Hide window when 10 seconds is up. That will actually be done. We haven't seen it happening here, but it responds to the shut off command. So add a timer below the skills to count down to 10 seconds. Done. So check the drag bar title is not too long. That's a later issue once we have the final width of it. Add setting to control Melodic Interlude window pops up. Yeah, it's funny, I don't actually remember if we did that. Nope. Okay. So adding a setting. So we really have these three things. Add these buttons that you can click on to do the heal or to remind you which ones work. Make sure that that drag bar's title is the right size. That's a super fast thing. And adding a setting to control whether or not this shows up in the first place. I hope people like it, but if they don't, they can turn it off. Those are some excellent to-do items to do next time. So we're going to leave it there. I would say go ahead and pop any last-minute thoughts, comments, questions into chat. I'm going to grab a drink of water here while I look at what is in chat. So, I say I'm going to grab it, and it's empty. Okay. Oh, nice. Crazy in chat says, I recently came back to LOTRO and reinstalled my UI again, which was a modified version of Black Vellum 4 or something. Cool. Well, if you ever feel like you have something to contribute back into the community, I believe it's pretty easy to upload skins to the LOTRO interface website as well. So, you definitely don't have to feel like you have to, but if you tweak things to the way that you like, it might be that other people like them as well. So there's a download section here, including skins somewhere. I think I don't actually do a lot of skins, so we have just stepped outside my knowledge area, but never feel like it's like, oh, no one will ever want this. That's okay. It's okay if no one ever wants it, but they might. And if they don't want it now, maybe they would in a few years. Exa says, step one sets the stretch mode and breaks all hierarchies. Yeah, I'm kind of tempted to make the icons bigger just because my icons are definitely not 32 by 32. I've definitely stretched them on my, what do we call these, quick slots? Yeah, I've stretched my quick slots so they're more like 50 pixels by 50 pixels. And so making a bar to stretch and scale this window is definitely a possibility. Crazy says, glad I stumbled on this as a weekly thing. Yes, it is. Little Redhead is answered. It is every Tuesday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. server time. And right now in Europe, for instance, we're 6 hours ahead, so it's 8 to 10 for me. Awesome. Oh, Crazy says, I could not figure out how to replace multi-year character frame assets as more and more started to appear, 8-year, etc. Maybe I can figure out how to edit those and create a digestible version. So, a thing that comes to mind is that community member Lunar Water, who did the LOTRO plugin compendium and other things, has been working on the LOTRO extension. There we go. The LOTRO extension to understand skinning in a way that is already beyond what I understand. And so there's a preview of things, so you can see how they're going to look, so you don't have to relaunch the game. There's all sorts of cool stuff going on there. And so it might be a useful tool to Visual Studio Code is a free download, and then the LOTRO API is a free extension on top of that. And so that could be a useful way to figure out if that, if something is available and you're just missing it. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and put that link into chat for that API. And in Visual Studio Code, it looks like this extension here. Visual Studio Code itself, you can find probably on Microsoft's website to download that for free. This is the extension that you want that enables the context sensitivity and all of that. Cool, cool, cool. Oops. Neat. All right, well, that I have lost the window that I was going to look at. Where did I put you? Oh, there you are. Okay. Cool. Okay. Just checking my list. And yep, that is everything we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you all next week, and until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.